A $10 billion factory, thousands of jobs, India's ticket to energy independence, all of it gone. And the finger is pointing at one country, China. But is that the whole story? India had a vision. Not just any vision, a transformation. A plan so bold it could reshape the global energy landscape and catapult the nation into the elite circle of manufacturing superpowers. At the heart of this vision was a colossal undertaking, a nationally integrated lithium battery production ecosystem worth $10 billion. It wasn't just about building batteries. It was about owning the entire value chain, from raw cells and modules to battery management systems, energy storage infrastructure, and complete vehicle-ready packs. The timeline seemed solid. By the close of this year, mass production was supposed to kick off. The goal? Power the electric vehicle revolution, fuel the renewable energy transition, secure the nation's energy future. But here's the twist. None of that is happening. The project, hyped as a game changer, has now been officially labeled a failure. And according to a wave of reports flooding Indian newsrooms, the culprit is clear. China pulled the plug. But why? Why would China, a nation that has aggressively expanded its influence across global supply chains, suddenly back out of a partnership this significant? And more importantly, what does this collapse reveal about India's race to become the next manufacturing giant? Let's unpack this story piece by piece. If someone asked you today which country is best positioned to inherit the title of world's factory, India would be near the top of that list. And the reasons are compelling. With over 1.4 billion people, India commands the largest workforce on the planet. Its domestic market is expanding rapidly, fueled by a rising middle class hungry for goods and services. These aren't small advantages, they're structural pillars that attract capital, talent, and opportunity. Recognizing this potential, the Indian government rolled out an aggressive industrial policy in 2022. It's called the Production Linked Incentive Scheme, or PLI for short. The concept is straightforward but powerful. The more you manufacture and sell within India, the more cash the government hands back to you. It's a direct subsidy tied to output, and it covers some of the most strategic sectors imaginable: electronics, clean energy, batteries, solar panels, automobiles, electric vehicles, semiconductors, and more. These aren't random picks. They represent the backbone of modern industry and the front lines of technological competition. India's message was clear: we want you here. Bring your factories, bring your expertise, and we'll make it worth your while. To sweeten the deal even further, New Delhi pledged approximately 180 billion rupees, close to $2 billion, specifically for companies investing in new energy sectors. That's a massive carrot, and it didn't go unnoticed. Reliance Industries steps up. Enter Reliance Industries, one of India's most formidable corporate empires. By 2024, the company's market valuation had soared past $190 billion, placing it comfortably among the nation's top-tier giants. Traditionally rooted in petrochemicals and refining, Reliance has been pivoting hard toward cleaner, greener ventures. And in 2021, its chairman, Mukesh Ambani, one of the world's wealthiest individuals, made a stunning announcement at the company's annual shareholder meeting. Reliance would invest over $10 billion to construct 4 mega facilities on Indian soil. These weren't ordinary factories. They were envisioned as integrated industrial hubs capable of producing lithium batteries, solar modules, green hydrogen, and electrolysis equipment. The crown jewel of this plan? A sprawling complex in Jamnagar, Gujarat, a city that Reliance had already transformed into a refining powerhouse. This new project aimed to do the same for clean energy. The announcement sent ripples across global markets. Analysts saw it as India's declaration of intent, a signal that the country was no longer content to be a buyer of green technology. It wanted to be a builder, and it was willing to bet billions to make that happen. Now, it's important to clarify something here. When you hear about Reliance's super battery factory, it's easy to imagine a single, massive building churning out cells, but that's not quite accurate. The Jamnagar complex is more like an industrial ecosystem, a cluster of facilities, each dedicated to a different part of the clean energy puzzle. The lithium-ion battery production lines are just one piece of that puzzle, albeit a critical one. According to the original roadmap, battery cell production was slated to begin around this year, with an initial capacity of roughly 40 gigawatt-hours annually. That's enough to power hundreds of thousands of electric vehicles, and the design was modular, meaning capacity could scale up to 100 gigawatt-hours over time. For a country that imports the vast majority of its batteries, this was nothing short of revolutionary. But here's where the cracks started to show. The technology gap. Reliance has money, it has land, it has political backing. What it doesn't have, and this is crucial, is the proprietary know-how to mass-produce high-quality battery cells. Building a battery factory isn't like assembling smartphones or stitching garments. It actually requires precision engineering, advanced chemistry, strict quality control, and honestly, years of accumulated expertise. And when it comes to that expertise, one country really dominates the global stage: China. Over the past 2 decades, Chinese firms have perfected the art of battery production. They've optimized manufacturing processes, driven down costs, improved energy density, and, scaled output to levels no other nation has matched. In 2023 alone, China exported approximately 1.2 million electric vehicles, more than any other country by a wide margin. Behind those vehicles are millions of battery cells, nearly all of them made domestically. Reliance knew this, so the company did what any pragmatic player would do. It reached out to Chinese battery manufacturers, seeking to license proven technology. After evaluating several options, Reliance zeroed in on a company called Lithium Energy Storage. Negotiations stretched over several months through early 2025, and by May, the two sides were reportedly on the verge of signing. Everything seemed to be falling into place. And then, in October, Beijing changed the rules. China's export controls. China announced a sweeping update to its export control regulations, specifically targeting items related to lithium batteries and artificial graphite anode materials. The new rules were explicit. Any export of graphite anodes, core production equipment, critical manufacturing technology, or key cell-making machinery now required government approval. The stated rationale? Protecting national security and preserving China's competitive edge in the new energy sector. For Lithium Energy Storage, the implications were immediate. Proceeding with the Reliance deal could mean violating Chinese law. The compliance risks were just too high. So the company walked away. No technology transfer, no licensing agreement, no partnership. Reliance was left scrambling. The pivot to assembly. Publicly, Reliance tried to project calm. The company announced it would refocus its efforts on assembling energy storage systems, using imported battery cells instead of producing them domestically. In theory, this kept the project alive. In practice, honestly, it gutted its strategic value. Here's why. Without domestic cell production, India remains entirely dependent on foreign suppliers for the most valuable part of the battery. Assembly and packaging are low-margin activities. The real money and the real technological leverage lies in controlling the cell itself. By shifting to assembly, Reliance effectively downgraded the project from a manufacturing breakthrough to a glorified logistics operation. Industry insiders weren't fooled. Many described the revised plan as an empty shell, and by January 2026, Reliance made it official. The core lithium battery manufacturing segment was being suspended. The $10 billion vision was now on indefinite hold, pending reassessment and potential restructuring. Reliance wasn't alone in hitting this wall. Other Indian conglomerates, Adani Group, JSW Energy, had also announced ambitious clean energy plans, and nearly all of them encountered the same bottleneck technology access. Grand visions are easy to announce. Executing them without the underlying expertise is a different story entirely. Why not Japan or South Korea? Or a logical question arises. If Chinese companies won't or can't cooperate, why not turn to Japan or South Korea? Both nations are technological powerhouses with deep expertise in batteries and materials. Toyota is pioneering solid-state battery prototypes. Samsung has cutting-edge automated production systems. On paper, they seem like ideal alternatives. But there's a problem: cost. Japanese and South Korean technologies are built for high-income markets with expensive labor and stringent quality standards. Their licensing fees reflect that reality, often 2 to 3 times higher than comparable Chinese solutions. Operating and maintenance costs? 30 to 40% more. For a price-sensitive market like India, where even small cost increases can kill demand, this math doesn't work. Think about it. If battery costs rise, vehicle prices rise. If vehicle prices rise, sales drop. If sales drop, you can't achieve economies of scale. And without scale, costs stay high. It's a vicious cycle. Industry estimates suggest that licensing core battery technology from Japan or South Korea could cost India upwards of $30 billion up front. That's not a realistic path forward for a developing economy. So despite having world-class tech, Japan and South Korea have largely remained on the sidelines of India's clean energy push. The price tag is simply too steep. What about Europe? Surely the continent that birthed the modern automotive industry has a solution. Well, yes and no. European governments and companies have launched battery initiatives across Germany, Sweden, France, and beyond. Germany alone committed around $1 billion in subsidies. Sweden rolled out climate funding packages. On the surface, it looks promising. But scratch beneath that surface, and you'll find most of these projects stuck in pilot mode. Full-scale, stable production remains elusive. Why? Because Europe faces the same dependency India does, on critical materials: lithium, cobalt, graphite. These are the building blocks of modern batteries, and China controls the refining and processing of the vast majority of them. Roughly 60% of global lithium refining happens in China, 73% of cobalt refining, and a staggering 90% of graphite processing. China doesn't just make batteries. It controls the entire upstream supply chain that feeds battery production. So whether you're in New Delhi, Berlin, or Detroit, if you want to build batteries at scale, you're dealing with Chinese suppliers at some point. That's not an accident. It's the result of decades of strategic investment, vertical integration, and industrial planning. But there's another layer to this story, one that doesn't get enough attention. India's unpredictable investment environment. Between 2014 and 2018, Chinese smartphone manufacturers flooded into India, lured by the massive consumer base. Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, they all set up shop, built factories, hired thousands. Then, starting around 2021, the Indian government began launching tax investigations into several of these firms. Some executives were barred from leaving the country. Some companies faced retroactive tax claims. A few ultimately packed up and left. The message to foreign investors was troubling. The rules can change, and when they do, you might be the one paying the price. And this wasn't unique to Chinese firms. In 2012, India pursued Vodafone for $3 billion in back taxes. In 2024, Samsung was hit with a $600 million tariff claim over historical filing discrepancies. These incidents, whether justified or not, have created an atmosphere of uncertainty. Investors crave predictability. When tax policy feels arbitrary or retroactive, capital gets cautious. For India to succeed in attracting long-term, high-value manufacturing investments, especially in capital-intensive sectors like batteries, it needs to rebuild trust. That means clearer rules, consistent enforcement, and a commitment to playing fair. Without that, even the most generous subsidies won't be enough to overcome the perceived risk. So where does this leave India? The collapse of the Reliance battery project isn't just a corporate setback. It's a wake-up call. It reveals the hard truth that ambition alone doesn't bridge technology gaps. Money helps, but it's not a substitute for expertise. And in the race to dominate the clean energy economy, the starting line isn't level. China has a 20-year head start, and that advantage is proving difficult to overcome. India still has time. Its market is growing. Its workforce is young. Its government is motivated. But the path forward requires more than subsidies and press conferences. It requires addressing the structural challenges that keep tripping up these mega projects. That means investing in research and development, training engineers, building partnerships that actually deliver technology transfer, not just promises. And perhaps most importantly, creating a regulatory environment that foreign companies can trust. The dream of a self-sufficient, globally competitive battery industry in India isn't dead, but it's on life support. And reviving it will take more than another $10 billion announcement. It will take strategy, patience, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. Because right now, the world is watching. And the question isn't whether India can talk about becoming a manufacturing superpower. It's whether India can actually pull it off. The rise and fall of India's battery ambitions is a story still being written, and the next chapter could go in any direction. Will New Delhi find a way to secure the technology it needs? Will homegrown innovation fill the gap? Or will India remain dependent on imports for the batteries that power its future? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. In the race for clean energy dominance, standing still is not an option. Thanks for watching. If you found this deep dive valuable, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because the global economy never stops moving, and neither do we. See you in the next one.